The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the...
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Good morning and welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. I wanted to do a whole opening and pretend that I was you, but sitting next to you, it doesn't. This wig, I call it my Doreen wig.
It's so
but
good.
it doesn't. It doesn't look like you.
It looks exactly like me.
It looks like I ate you.
When you sent me the picture
Yeah.
last week, I was like, oh my God. I took it. It was a double take. I was like, wait, is that me? That was so
stop.
I swear.
Stop.
I swear.
Well, I showed that picture to my husband last night, and he was like, "Who is that?"
It looks familiar.
She looks familiar. Who is that woman? I was like, "That would be me, honey." And he was like, No, let me look at that again. It doesn't look anything like you. Yes, because, and I'm going to take this off in a minute because I don't know how you deal with this much hair. I can't. It's making me full on crazy. But anyway, good morning, especially good morning to Bertha, who says good afternoon. So wherever you are, Bertha, in the world.
And she says you look so beautiful.
Well, I'm trying to channel Dr. Granpeesheh, but, I used to have long hair, but it was long ringlet curls. I would wear it, but I would do it in the Julia Louis-Dreyfus from Seinfeld, that I would take and do a big top knot on the top and have all the spilling hair.
Oh yes,
Yeah, it was very 80s, 90s kind of thing. Anyway, and then I couldn't stand it anymore because can't stand this much hair on my face. Good morning, Laurie. We're so thrilled you're here. So
this is for also look how much we look like the logo.
Oh well, there you go. So I don't do reverse well. I have to have mine sweeping across my eyes.
There you go.
I can't take it. There we go. The big reveal. So I don't know. Did I send you? I thought I was going to send you, but Lori, who's watching, decided that she was going to shave her head too.
I heard.
Did you see that? I'm all stuck to this.
Oh my gosh.
So it's so much lighter and cooler, and can you see that it's already?
Are you happy?
I'm like the George Papard look.
It's white, It's nice.
We have so many stories about that, but Laurie, I thought you looked great, and you're amazing because she had long hair. I had short hair, and you shaved it off, and she had long hair. So brave. Hi, Vibin' with Nisha, and hello, Judy. We're so excited to see you too, Bertha. We're here with Dr. Granpeesheh. If you guys don't know her, she's a true expert in the field of autism and working in this field for more than 45 years. Hello. Crazy accomplishment. And if you were with us last week, then you know we did the Autism Network podcast-a-thon. We managed to stay live for 44 hours.
Amazing.
And found that we still had things to talk about, which is why we're here and back. Because 44 hours is not enough. But we also, on the last show, as Dr. Granpeesheh was shaving my head, which was hilarious.
It was so much fun.
Somebody sent me, Sucho sent me the best picture of you making the spiral horns on my head with you laughing. It's like the best picture ever.
It was so much fun.
And but we also were sort of celebrating her birthday early because she had a birthday yesterday, if you didn't know. Dr. Granpeesheh had a birthday, just a little one, not a big one.
A huge one, a huge one.
I was being sarcastic. But anyway, we celebrate you every day, but especially when we get to commemorate another trip around the sun. I'm so grateful for your existence.
Thank you.
And I include you in my grateful list every single day, as do so many other people. I want to say that DJ wrote and said, he said happy birthday. I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that.
That was so lovely of him. And also yesterday I had the amazing experience of a lot of old friends who worked with me at CARD for a long, long time, right?
Yeah.
25, 30 years were in touch with me and so on. And I think Vince wrote something like that. Can you believe that we've known each other since like our 20s or something? And I thought, God, that's insane. Yeah.
I was listening to the radio yesterday, and they said something like 41 years ago today, Haircut 100 was the #1 song, and I went, what?
Yeah.
41 years ago? Yes, we've all marched on, right? But Lori says, I had a blast. Can't wait until next year. I'm so willing to do it again with updates. Lori, so thrilled that you were a part of the marathon. Brian says, good morning, Shannon and Doreen. After the marathon, you feel like family. I'm so glad, because you always feel like family to us. And Lori said, happy birthday, and Bertha's sending you lots of love. And Pratibha, I hope I said that right, is saying hi. We're so thrilled that you guys are all here. So Dr. Granpeesheh, as we said, is a true expert in the field of autism. We are going to get down to some questions in just a second, but let's talk about where you can go to put your question in. We're live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, which I always forget to say. We're also live on about a dozen other places too, but for those places, if you write in right now on that platform, then it populates here on our screen, and we can be having a conversation almost in real time, which is super fun. And also, I feel like it feels like the bedtime pass. It takes some of the steam out of it, because when you know that you have access to an expert of this caliber where you can float some questions out. Now that leads me to do our disclaimer, which we always say, which is that there's no expert in any field, let alone autism, that can give individual specific advice. So if we all understand that, there's no way Dr. Granpeesheh doesn't have eyes on you or the people that you love in your home that are on the autism spectrum. But if you'll write in and tell her kind of what's going on and give her some whys and wherefores, then you can hear from her. And a lot of times the questions that you ask them are as interesting as the answers that you provide, right? Because then it allows you guys to take that information and go back to the expert who does have eyes on the situation, so you can get farther faster, which is a wonderful thing that you donate this time.
It's my pleasure. And also I think it helps a lot when people are live with us, because I'll have questions and they will be able to answer those questions. And that allows me to get to know their child a little bit better and be able to really actually hone in on what the issue is.
Yeah. And I want to say, one of the reasons why we did the podcast-a-thon and went around the clock twice was because so many of you had written in from around the world and said, we don't get to watch you live.
Right.
So we don't get to write in the live questions. And I do want to say that you can still send us questions. You can email me, and that's probably the best way to do it. You email me, and then I'm able to ask Dr. Doreen your question during the next show, and then you just have to watch the next show to make sure that it happened. So Traven is our fabulous Traven, who was worked so hard last week.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. We're so grateful for him. He's showing you all the ways that you can connect, ways that you can watch the live show, ways that you can watch the podcast, because we do podcast. But if you will, eventually he'll get around to showing you my email, which is shannon@autism-live.com. And if you will email me, and then if for some reason I don't answer it on the next live show, be persistent. I always say, email me early and often, like voting, because I will, sometimes it gets past me, but I don't like that it gets past me sometimes. But it's not because I don't care, it's because I am befuddled.
And there are a lot of questions. We try to get to all of them.
Yeah,
Sometimes we don't. Right. And so we'll do our best.
Yeah, we do. Good morning, Anna. So thrilled that you're here. So we got a lot to accomplish today, not the least of which is there's a giant bag of things that maybe we should take them out a little at a time, because there's all these, it's all funny stuff. Because what do you get someone who is giving you everything? I haven't figured it out yet. Right? I mean...
Well, you're too kind to me.
No. No, that is not the truth. I started writing you this maudlin message last night about where I think we would be. I think I changed it and went, oh, don't put that all on her. But but I was sitting there and I was like, I was like, because I don't have to wonder where would we be without you, because I know that my child wouldn't be speaking. I know that my child would not be, halfway through his college career studying to be a writer.
Amazing.
I know that he wouldn't be working with individuals on the spectrum. My husband and I would probably have not stayed together because it would have been so stressful.
Oh my gosh.
And I would probably, have left Los Angeles to go live in a shack somewhere on the side of a mountain because I would have needed to work full time, helping my son. And that is not our circumstances because of you.
Oh, well,
So there we
God
go.
bless you thank you for giving me all the credit. But
Well,
I
I
appreciate
mean,
it.
really.
I'm just thrilled that I played any part
Oh,
in your life.
please.
Thank
Any
you.
part. Are you kidding me? So anyway, we'll take little breaks like that throughout. But our topic today for today's show is overcoming bedtime challenges because look, we just went through a couple of sleepless nights, and I'm still feeling it. And I remember what it was like when we went through every night, sleepless night. And I know that for a lot of you, that is your reality. And the truth is, you can want everything. You can want the sun, the moon, and the stars, and you can want communication, and you can want all these amazing things for your kiddo. But if you're underslept and they're underslept, it's going to be a rough thing.
Yeah.
So our starter question today, and then we're going to take questions from you guys. You guys can be writing in your questions. Oh, look. They said hi from Kobe and Rachel.
Oh,
how
that's
much did we
awesome.
love
We
Kobe Bird
love
last week?
having
Well,
you
and
guys.
Rachel too, because I love them both. Which reminds me, if you guys haven't checked it out, the Easter Seals every year does the Easter Seals Disability Challenge.
Oh.
And it's a film thing where they're given a topic and they're given 5 days to form teams. And they're given the topic. It has to surround that, and it has to be this video that they create in 5 days. Can you imagine?
Amazing.
And it's for the entire disability community, and then they post all of them.
Wow.
So they did this a week and a half ago, and they just posted them on Saturday. And
What a beautiful thought.
Right? And they've been doing this, I think this is the 10th anniversary. So we have several of the guests that were on last week who have films, but I especially want to say that Kobe and Rachel did a film together. Rachel wrote it and did the editing. She did an amazing job. And Kobe is such, you guys know, he's a brilliant actor. So they have, theirs is called The Question. I want to encourage everybody to go there.
Oh, I can't wait now.
Right?
Yeah.
But it is a thing where people vote and by viewing, so go check out their video, The Question.
Oh, I definitely will.
It's really good.
And you find this on the Easter Seals website?
It's all over Facebook, but if you put in Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge, you'll see, I think there's 150 films. So many people did so much good work. I know Danny Bowman was on the show last week. I haven't seen hers yet, but I'm sure that it's lovely. Spec Labs also put in a video that I haven't seen yet.
That's
But
great.
definitely check out Kobe's because it's the one that I've seen, and it's, I got chills.
Amazing.
So watch it. They did an amazing, amazing job. And Rachel said happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel.
And I just lost it. Laurie said, Dr. Doreen, you're an angel to all of us. You are both appreciated so much. Well, Laurie, you're tearing it up yourself. You are doing an amazing, amazing job and bringing so many people into the light of possibilities. So we love what you're doing, too. And you can find her, Autism Journey with Elijah. Amazing stuff that you guys are doing on Facebook. Anyway, I started to say our starter question today is I can get my 4-year-old to bed, I can get him to sleep, but a half hour later he wakes up and is up for hours. Please help. That's like so. I can just picture this parent because you do all the things, you go through all the steps, and you get them asleep, and you go, oh, okay, now I have a minute, and they're going to rest, and it's all going to be okay. And 30 minutes later, your night is over.
Yeah. So that's actually an unusual one because, in all the years I've gotten so many different questions about sleep, and it is you find patterns. Like you see a lot of the same stuff happening. A lot of times it's kids who will not fall asleep. A lot of times it's kids who wake up approximately 4 or 5 hours after they've gone to sleep. There's issues with like stuff that happens during the night. The child wakes up and comes to your room, etc. Now, half an hour after is actually very, very unique. And so the first thing I would do is, and I hate to tell this to parents because it's not easy to find the right place, right? But I would really want to check and try to find out what exactly is waking him up. Because if you are actually asleep, you're going to go through a cycle of sleep patterns that are half an hour just makes no sense. It's not in the sleep cycle, right? So you're not even reaching REM in half an hour. So we have to figure out what's causing him to wake up. There could be external things, for instance, noise that's happening in the environment that you might not even consider to be noise, because to us a lot of things are background sounds, but to our kids they are startling, like maybe sprinklers turn on, maybe I don't know what, but if you can, maybe just sit around in that half hour, sit in his room, or put a camera in his room and see exactly what's going on. Of course, other things that sometimes wake our kids up are also seizures. And sometimes these seizures can be subclinical, so you don't necessarily see the seizure, but it's brain activity that suddenly occurs and wakes the child up. And the only way to really tell is to do a 24-hour EEG, which is hard on parents. A lot of universities that have, I don't know exactly where you are, but universities typically have sleep research centers or sleep centers, and a lot of times they will do this. They will either have an actual location where you can take your child there and they will observe and measure everything that's going on, or they now have these amazing kind of EEG caps that are hard to initially get used to, but people can help get your child used to it, and it's just like a little cap that you put on, and it has electrodes all the way inside and measures what is exactly going on with your child. So I would definitely start there, because as I said, waking up half an hour after they fall asleep is a little unusual. Now, other things, like when people tell me that the child wakes up like 4 hours after, it's usually the effect of melatonin. Yeah. A lot of parents use melatonin, excuse me, and melatonin is great. It's completely harmless, but it will tend to wake the child up about 4 hours after they fall asleep. So that's another thing. If you are using melatonin, maybe don't, or talk to a physician and combine it with something like Benadryl, diphenhydramine, which is pretty innocuous and is not going to hurt your child. And you can give Benadryl to babies, newborns, so it's not a big deal, but it will kind of wipe out the edginess of melatonin, which no matter what you do, melatonin it increases your melatonin production, and then as soon as you hit 4 to 6 hours, you're just wide awake. Wow. So that's another thought. The other thing is there some other type of physiological thing that could be happening? Like, for instance, does your child use the bathroom before going to sleep? Sometimes kids will wake up because they have an urge to go to the bathroom. These are all things that I really suggest you find out first before we talk about sleeps, how to manage when the child wakes up in the middle of the night. So, I'll talk about the treatment, but I want to make sure you check out the reason first. That's more important to me. There we go. Now, when a child wakes up, it's often what we do is we will go in and find out what's going on, and sometimes we'll give the child a glass of water, or a lot of parents, because they're so exhausted, will just allow the child to come and sleep with them. And it's amazing how fast the body will condition to waking up because of those two reinforcers. Anything edible or drinkable, anything, like even water, will get you in a schedule of waking up. And the second thing is, obviously, if they're allowed to come to your bed, the comfort and safety and just being with you is so positive of an experience that will become a habit. Yeah. So it's hard to tell you not to do that, but the truth is, that is what's causing them to wake up, because the body just kind of becomes conditioned to that. So we start there, which is, if either one of those things, if you're giving a drink, you need to stop it. And I know it's much harder said than done. So a lot of parents will say, I can't do that. And he falls asleep with his milk or with his bottle or something. So if you can't do it suddenly, you have to do it gradually. reduce the amount of the drink and just stop it. If you can do it suddenly, it's important to do it. What will happen, and I'll tell you either whether it's drinking or eating or it's coming to your bed, but you basically have to stop that behavior from occurring. So, and when you do stop, the child will have 2 or 3 nights of complaining, not sleeping. It gets worse before it gets better. Like, I want to be very honest about that. Yeah. It's not like the child's suddenly going to be like, okay, no more drinking. Oh, I can't go to their bed? Okay, I guess I'll just go back to sleep. That's not going to happen. It's going to be 2 or 3 nights of you being awake because your child will continue to try. If it's a matter of drinking something, they will cry, maybe be upset, and then they'll get used to it. If it's a matter of coming to you, they'll keep coming and you'll have to keep taking them back or not even allowing them. Like, a lot of times I'll tell parents, honestly, it's easier if you reverse this, and instead of allowing the child to kind of walk over to you and spend the night with you, you put a cot in their room and you spend the night in their room, actually right next to them to begin with, and then every night you move your cot away 1 inch. And actually, as you do that, the child will gradually get used to it. There will still be at night where you're a little bit too far, and you'll just have to stay there until the child gets used to that distance, and then gradually you will start to put your cot outside the door. And it'll be bumpy, but it's the most gradual way of doing this. Some parents choose to do it. Other parents will be like, no, he's got to get used to it, so they don't allow the child out of the room, and the child does go back to sleep. Now, it's just tough on us. Like, I went through this with my 3rd child. It's very, very tough on parents because your child's crying and feeling very much like you're very vulnerable, you're tired, you're exhausted. The whole time your mind is playing tricks on you. Yeah. And it's kind of like, why am I doing this to myself? Why don't I just let him come sleep with us? Yeah. And the reason you don't let your child do that is because it might be okay when they're 3 or even 5. It's not okay when they're 17. Right. So, and it'll become a habit, and it'll become harder and harder to break. Yeah.
I think, all the things that you listed, except for one, and one is that I'm going to speak for myself, is that when he was little and I realized all the things he was missing and all the things that he wasn't getting, I tried to compensate wherever I could. And so part of it was that I told myself that by giving him that comfort of coming to bed and sleeping with us, that I was giving him something because he didn't have other things during the day. That he couldn't just skip off to Gymboree like the other kids. Yeah. And part of it was a lie because it was more comfort for me too. Yes. But it was the lie that I told myself. And I just feel the need to say to people, if you listen to everything that Dr. Granpeesheh said, and there was a part of you that was like, yeah, I'm not doing that, I want you to just take a breath for a second and ask yourself why. Yeah. And go through all the emotions of all of it, because long term, we didn't get to the really good stuff until I got rest and he got rest. And the truth of the matter is, as much as I told myself, but it's comfort to him in the middle of the night, it really wasn't. Yeah. It was all of the things, and I didn't have the rest to be able to see that clearly then, but I can now. And I can tell all of you, you get to better days if you will do what Dr. Granpeesheh is asking. It's hard.
It's very hard because we have guilt as well, right? I mean, it's, not to compare, but last night, right now my daughter's dog is also staying with us, so we have 4 dogs in my house. So I took them all out to the backyard, and then they all come through the doggy door except for my daughter's dog, who's a rescue, who has not learned to do that. Right. And so he was outside for about 45 minutes, and I didn't realize it. And I had so much guilt. I could not go to bed. Like, I sat with this dog and held him for an hour, and I was telling my husband, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe we left him outside for 40 minutes. I just had... And that's what you do. It's natural. And when it's your child, it's 1,000 times more. You feel guilt. And you're thinking to yourself, I have to just hold him. This is, he needs this love. And give your child as much love as you want during the day, right? But they need their sleep. You need your sleep. They need their sleep. Let's talk about this. If your child has interrupted sleep, they are not producing neurotransmitters, which is the most vital thing to their condition, actually. So in order to be able to learn, they need to have the appropriate neurotransmitter production. They need to sleep. Because of that, they will just, their health, it's so important for them. And I promise you, it only takes, it will not take more than a week if you actually just, do it right.
Yeah.
If you give in, if you keep giving in, it will last. It'll keep going. I've had couples where families who have come to me and said, yeah, he's 10. It's just mom says he sleeps with me, dad sleeps in another room.
Yeah.
And that happens. And it happens frequently. And it's just not good for you as a family. And, it's not a matter of comfort, honestly. You can make their room as comfortable as possible, give them every possible wonderful thing, and make it happen. It's tough.
Lori had written in before all this, and she said, this is really close to home for me. I just went to the doctor, and they told me to get rid of the cups at night, which you said, stop with the drinking, and limit his intake of fluid, and it's okay to give him melatonin at night. We'll give him 2 gummies. It doesn't help him asleep, but it helps him to go to bed. He doesn't wake up like walking around the house. He doesn't do all that, but he sits up and then goes down, nose down. This happens about 3 times a night. He still sleeps in my bed, and we limit electronics. I hope this is nothing. I have a lot on my plate right now.
Yeah.
And I feel that, Lori, and I hope that you heard what Dr. Granpeesheh said about the sleeping in your bed, because and I hear the whole thing about you have a lot on your plate right now, and that's being made harder by the fact that you're not getting good rest. But I do think it's almost like a boot camp situation where you got to set aside some time. And I think it's better when you have somebody in cahoots with you, whether it's your significant other or you call your best girlfriend and say, can you come and sleep here for a couple of nights? Because you don't make good decisions in the middle of the night. In the middle of the night, you make decisions about, what's the thing that's going to be able to get me back to sleep sooner as opposed to later. And that just perpetuates this.
That's right. And Lori, you are actually amazing, and you've already kind of gathered a village of people around you. You're so amazing with that. I suggest that you get a couple of other people who are going through a similar thing, and you kind of do a little, a week of this. And everybody's going to be, it'll be difficult because everyone's losing sleep, obviously, but at the same time, you'll support each other through it, right? During the podcast-a-thon, I was talking about getting yourself ready to do a potty training few days. This is even more important, I think, and you kind of need to select a time when there's no travel. As Shannon said, you got to have support and friends, because it's just like when you have a newborn baby, right? And you get someone to come and help the first week, and that's all you really need. You need so that you can trade off, so that you're not the only one dealing with it at night. And then it just becomes a habit that they will actually stay in their own room. This is very, very important. Yeah. And like I said, talk to the doctor who suggested melatonin and ask if it would be okay to have a combination of Benadryl and melatonin, possibly not as much as melatonin as you're giving him, but and also like a very low dose of Benadryl. The 2 together will help keep him asleep. I always used to enjoy it. For me, any kind of melatonin will wake me up. Mm-hmm. But I used to talk about Tranquil Sleep, which is a chewable melatonin, which is pretty good. And it has theanine in it, which helps you stay asleep a little bit, but still wakes me up. So, I think that's important too, is to have a medication. And also, we don't give kids heavy-duty sleep medication. That just it's not approved. But there are other types of things that will help a child get drowsy, like Benadryl.
There you go. Pratibha Pratibha, I hope I'm saying it right, says my son, 6 years old, is very aggressive behavior towards others. And I'm going to ask her if you would do us a favor and write in and be as specific as possible about which behaviors, when is it happening, who is it happening towards, and then we'll come back to it. Is that okay with you?
That's a great idea, and I really want to try to help address this for you, Pratibha. But we need to know specifically when it happens. What are the circumstances? Is it when you ask him to do something? Is it when something around him is bothering him? He's trying to get out of a situation. Please let us know a little bit more detail.
Okay, Judy has written in and says, Shannon, I'm sorry, not a good time to ask is a perfect time to ask. You sent me 2 emails, Judy, and much apologies. I left here a Hurton unit the other day and just unplugged for 4 days. So I have not yet seen emails, and I'm going to be getting caught up on emails directly after the show. But I can tell you that you did, I remember you won a Discovery Toys gift card. We really want to thank Discovery Toys.
Yes.
We were able to give away a bunch of $25 gift certificates throughout the podcast-a-thon. I remember very distinctly you winning one, Judy, so you absolutely are a winner, and you should be getting those emails today and tomorrow. I'm sending them. And my apologies that I took longer off than I thought I was going to take, but it was really necessary.
Oh my gosh. And you still haven't caught up on sleep.
No, I'm not caught up on sleep because it takes me forever because our bodies, things interrupt, and there we go. I am saying hello, hey y'all, hey to the owl feather. I am newly obsessed with owls. I don't know if I've told you this, and so I love this. And you sent us hearts and owls and owl. I was a couple of years ago that somebody showed a picture of owls' legs. I had no idea that I thought owls had these very long bodies and these little feet, and they don't. They have long feathers that cover these long, skinny little. Who knew?
That's
and I'm obsessed now.
Owls
with
are the best, Shannon. So now that you told me this,
yes.
I have a home in Florida, and there's an owl that sits at the top of the door. So whenever you enter or exit, this owl is sitting there looking down. It is the cutest thing ever. Like, I worship this owl. It's so adorable. You have to go.
At our old place that we lived, we always had owls.
Oh, they're amazing
and
animals.
They would hoot even in the middle of the day, and I would always talk to them and go, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's the middle of the day. You're supposed to be asleep now." And then now where we've moved, we have every animal except for giraffes and owls. I swear to you, we were like, did we rent a zoo? We've had the raccoon on our patio that stood up and it was 5 feet tall in the middle of the night. We've had possums, the great possum attack of 2020. I mean, we've had everything. We've had parrots, roving parrots that people apparently let loose in the 30s, and there's a band of them now that would come and live in the tree. We have everything under the sun. And the other day when I was out planting the garden, I have these 2 hummingbirds that came and were this close to my face. And I talk to animals. I just do. And so I had this lovely conversation with them. But anyway, I'm obsessed with owls. So Owl Feather, glad that you're here. Love seeing that. I just think of owls and their legs and I crack up. It makes me the happiest of people.
I'm going to have to look now.
Have you ever seen the pictures? It's hysterical.
No, I haven't. I've just seen their feet. I've never really seen their owls.
These long, and they have little feathers on them, so they look like little stockings. They're hilarious. You must go look at a picture of owl legs. It's too funny. Anyway, Brian says, you don't have to address this now, but we're going to, Brian. But it would be interesting to hear your thoughts. I am hesitant about medication, but there was a very positive recent publication recently that was highlighted an anti-seizure medication, Lamictal. Has very promising results to minimize ASD problems and behaviors. Is still in human mice studies. But he's asking if you want to look into it, Dr. Doreen.
Yeah, no, Brian, a lot of people do use Lamictal, actually. It's not uncommon. That's something you need to discuss with your pediatrician or neurologist, and if you feel like it is something that your child needs, then obviously go for it. I generally feel that when a child has challenging behavior, I don't really want to medicate that, because I feel like challenging behavior is some form of communication, and I kind of want to know why they're having that challenging behavior. In other words, if a child tantrums, I want to know what's causing them to tantrum. Sometimes what's causing them to tantrum or bite or, aggress or whatever is just frustration. And when I teach them more communication and increase their reinforcers and reduce demands, things become fair for them, and then those behaviors go down, right? They decrease. And they learn that, I can communicate it in better ways, in other more adaptive ways. Sometimes what's causing their aggression or frustration are things that are internal, like there's a massive amount of anxiety. And when I treat the anxiety, it helps the child's aggression or challenging behavior go away. Sometimes it's other things, like it could also be sensory issues are causing the child, it could be sleep issues, it could be pain related to gastrointestinal, whatever it is. And when you treat those things, those other comorbidities, it helps the child's challenging behaviors. So a drug like Lamictal is okay, but what it does is it's not really going to the cause of it, to the root of it. It's just reducing the occurrence of it. It's similar to Risperdal in that sense, that it just kind of reduces your response to whatever is causing you frustration. So it's totally fine, and I think every parent should do whatever they feel is appropriate and helpful. And yes, I know that it helps. A lot of parents use Lamictal to reduce kind of like severe aggressive behavior.
One of the many things I love about you, I remember years ago you saying, if all behavior is communication, then we should do everything we can to keep the communication coming, not try to level it out.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Which is one of the things I respect about you, because there's other people who are like, well, let's try to make that go away when it's communication. Yeah. But so there are many things in this basket. I want you to take this one out. We'll take things out one at a time, because this is why, because of that, so something for your office.
Queen of damn near everything.
And that's why she's the queen of damn near everything.
I'm putting this in my office at home.
Oh, there you go. Because she prizes communication. Just one of the many things in the basket. Okay, we have so many questions coming in, but there are many things in there. But that seemed appropriate right there. Okay, we're saying good morning to our Journey Cameron's New Life. So thrilled that you're here with us this morning. She says we had to make his safe spaces because he's an eloper, had to get the locks he couldn't figure out, doors and windows too, and I couldn't sleep until I knew he was safe. Well, I mean, of course. But it sounds like you have figured that out, and that is important, because when kids elope in the middle of the night, how could a parent sleep?
Yeah.
How could a parent? But it sounds like you've gotten that under control. Judy says, what is the cause of an autistic teen sleeping with one leg bent up really high like Shannon is sitting and laying down flat on a pillow?
I don't know. Judy, I have no idea. I will tell you that I will sometimes do this position because it helps my lower back.
That's exactly why my leg is in this
position
today.
There you go. So I don't know if she feels more comfortable that way, and you might want to get an x-ray of her back and make sure there's nothing going on there. But or she could have also seen it and is just modeling a behavior that she's seen. But for me, I know that these positions help my lower back and hip.
Sciatica.
Sciatica, yeah.
It's sciatica.
Yeah.
But, if you think about it, the other thing on the other side of it, too, is if you're having, because I was somebody who had all the cramps, the endometriosis and all that, endometriosis cramps, too, and a teenage girl, I mean, I would sleep that way when I was a teenager because of cramps.
Yes, it's a teenager, yeah. Yeah, that could very well be. So
I would look at all of that personally, because that's all connected right there.
Yes.
That if you're having cramps and you bring one leg up, sometimes it can help. It's all communication. It's all communication.
Honestly.
Toscalo would like to know your opinion, view about in-home ABA versus virtual ABA.
Oh, that's great. I really want to talk about that, Toscolo. But can I also address, I see that our Jenny Cameron's New Life has also talked more about kind of the locks and safety. I'm actually meeting someone later today to discuss the issue of elopement because I guess people are coming up with some. I'd love to get feedback from our viewers. A company has designed soles, I guess, that you put in your shoes that are like for elopement. They're, I guess, for kids on the spectrum as well as individuals with Alzheimer's. And personally, my feedback was that a lot of kids don't like keeping their shoes on. Yeah. I'm not sure that that's the best way to prevent this, but I do know you had mentioned to me, and I was looking it up this weekend, there are companies that produce a QR code that you can put on your clothing. Yeah. Which also, by the way, not that you need this, but for those of you who are still not comfortable at night, I feel very safe when everything is locked to the point where nobody can get in or out, but the QR codes on clothing are very, very good for elopement, I feel. I think that's a fantastic thing.
Friends of the show, their parents, in fact, their son went to the same school that my son went to, and Jay was an eloper. Yeah. It was an issue. And so they came up with this out of necessity to help their own child. So their company is called If I Need Help.
Yes,
and you can,
I love that.
You can go to their website, ifineedhelp.com, and they have lots of different things. And you can get patches to iron onto clothes or to sew onto clothes, or you can get them so that they're printed on the clothes, or things to attach. You can get them to attach to the shoe. They have all kinds of things, and there are kits that go together, and these are parents who have been there and done that. So that's awesome. ifineedhelp.com.
So they're like, you can sew the patch on, iron the patch on, stick it on, stick stuff to. That's fabulous. Yeah. That's fabulous.
And then you customize. You have control over when somebody scans the QR code, what it tells them. And you can put all kinds of information. And we've heard from the police that it's been really helpful when somebody sees somebody and they do the scan, and that they've been able to reunite them with family members ever so much quicker. It also is a signal to people that, something else is going on, because I think sometimes people are they look the other way and don't realize.
Yeah. So sorry, now going back to Toscolo's question. Okay, so there's in-home ABA, there's center-based ABA, which means ABA that's occurring in a clinic. And then there's a virtual, which is something new that started during COVID. Yeah. And I will tell you that we did studies that showed that center-based ABA was the most effective. I think that's just because, people at a center are more work-oriented, their supervisors are there, there's less distraction, so your child is just getting a lot more learning opportunities. That being said, home-based is necessary for some skills. Like if I'm teaching a child potty training, I'm going to want to be in his home. If I'm teaching him any kind of generalization of skills to the home, I want to be in his home. So for a lot of generalization purposes, there's going to have to be an aspect that's at home. Now, virtual, I will tell you that is the least effective when it comes to actual therapy, because it's very, very hard to keep a child focused on teaching something on a screen. It also makes it very difficult for you as the therapist to give them stimuli. There's all this stuff that you do in ABA and like discrete trial teaching, which has to do with manipulation of the stimuli, like putting stimuli out in a specific order, in a different order, putting two out with distractors, putting one. It's just all this stuff, shaping, like prompting the object, being closer. There's all this stuff that requires your hands, and it's very hard to do all of that stuff on a screen. It's just extremely hard or impossible. And also, you're not there to directly give reinforcers. I mean, so, it's a lot harder. There are ways that you can do a little bit of it. If it's a child who is higher functioning, less affected by autism, able to pay attention for long periods of time, requires less physical reinforcers, can be rewarded by just things they see on the screen, then yeah, you could do a little bit of ABA on virtual, but realistically, no, it's not. There's no way it's going to be as effective as a person sitting in front of you. Supervision online is probably almost about the same, because you can observe someone working with a child, give them a lot of feedback. That kind of stuff I could see. And in fact, it makes it possible for supervisors, BCBAs, to see more children, to see more therapists, BTs, to give better feedback and so on. So I always supported doing supervision online, but I cannot imagine doing a lot of therapy virtually.
The only time that I heard during the pandemic when parents were seeing tons of progress were when what actually was happening was that the parent was doing the therapy and they were being supervised by the therapist.
Exactly.
And in that case, the parent learned so much, the child learned a lot. I still think it's better to have somebody else besides the parent, because we have so much baggage when we sit down to do therapy with our children.
And you have a life.
And who has the time to do this full time?
During COVID, it actually worked out okay because a lot of parents were not working.
Yeah.
But I think that it's, and as I'm glad you brought that up, because if a parent is available the whole time, or if someone is available the whole time, and is able to do all these things, then yes, you learn a lot.
They learn so much.
I also think that virtually you can receive parent training, but I don't think actual ABA therapy.
Yeah. And they went on to say that part of the issue is that the centers are filled up with Medicaid beneficiaries, especially in Texas and in Dallas. But I think, I fight to get your child face-to-face services.
Yeah, if the centers are full, forget it. Just do it in home. Go get therapy in home. Like that is the way we used to do it for decades. So get therapy in home.
That's how I had it.
It's great to have therapy in home, and as long as you can really make the environment kind of distraction-free, you'll be just as good as being in a center.
Okay. So Lori wants to know, she said, thank you, and could night terrors cause sleeping problems in a continuous pattern?
Yes. They could. Night terrors definitely could be causing issues. If it is night terrors, you'll know right away, because the child is not just waking up. They're waking up screaming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's another thing to consider. Thanks for bringing that up, Lori.
Sarah has said with twins, it's so difficult.
I can't even imagine,
I know.
Sarah.
And she says, you can't put them in the same room. They would wake each other up. We decided to separate them. One would sleep with Grandma and the other one with me, but they both fight every night to sleep with me.
Yeah.
She says, we don't have a separate bedroom for the kids since I've called my parents for support. It's so hard. But I also know that with these two little guys, they are making tremendous progress.
That's awesome,
that they have
Sarah.
grown so much, and they're really, everything that you write in, Sarah, I'm so impressed with how much language, and I just wonder, because I'm always a big fan of wearing them out. Like physically wearing them out.
Yes.
And I mean that in the best possible way. I mean like Disneyland wear them out. When people go, well, you're talking about making children so tired. We never go, oh, how abusive is it to take them to Disneyland?
Yeah.
But like physically making sure, like these kids are in therapy a lot during the day, but I'm wondering, like, do they get to have how much physical
activity?
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
But any advice for her?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do with schedules, because if you have a child who's awake during the night, another thing that we tend to do as parents is we will worry about them, so we'll let them sleep in the morning. Don't do that. Wake them up even though they haven't had a lot of sleep at night. Like, keep them on a schedule. Schedule is vital, believe it or not. Like, our bodies acclimate to a schedule really fast, and then they just realize this is bedtime and this is waking time. And also, you know, I mean, in your situation, Sarah, you can't do much about it right now, but when you have a room for the child, I have found that a lot of children will actually ask to go to their room for bed if they have a lot of reinforcers in their room that they wouldn't normally have access to otherwise. So,
Absolutely.
But Sarah, don't worry about it. You have so much going on right now. If you don't have a space for the twins, there's really nothing you can do about it. Once they're a little bit more manageable and your parents maybe are not there, then you can set up that room, and then one by one you can transition the kids into their room.
There we go. Bertha says, happy birthday to you and many blessings
Thank
to
you.
come. She says, my granddaughter does not sleep well, and then she falls asleep at school. Which is what happens, right?
Yeah. And you have to, Bertha, tell the school they cannot let her sleep. That's part of the problem. Like her routine, her schedule has been to sleep at school. So.
And then she goes on to say that she herself is having a hard time going to sleep because she says she has nightmares since the hurricane that hit us 6 months ago.
Oh my gosh!
Which, I mean, if that's affecting you, imagine how that's affecting your granddaughter.
Yes.
We all. It's so interesting to me. Whenever we change the clocks for daylight savings time, it messes us all up for a week.
It does.
All of us
It does.
for a week.
It does.
And I always say, isn't that fascinating? Because the light changes by about a minute and a half every day for all of us, and we don't notice it. But change it by 59 minutes, and we're all thrown off. Like traffic is thrown off, and people get in more accidents because we're thrown off. So imagine if it's having that big of an effect on you, what effect is it having on her?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then be kind to yourselves, right?
And also, Bertha, I mean, I just like downplayed and talked about melatonin for a while, but one of the things that is fantastic about melatonin is that it does help you fall asleep. If you yourself are having a hard time, you might want to look online and purchase some Tranquil Sleep. It's chewable, very easy, and you will fall asleep.
I am also a huge fan of the Calm app. Especially the Matthew McConaughey factor. And I was so messed up during the podcastathon because it was key for me to get through the podcastathon that there were times when I would have 2 or 3 hours off and I had to sleep during that time.
It's the best.
And I can't go to sleep. But my Calm app was messed up and I couldn't get in.
Oh, my God.
And it really threw me off because if I can't have my Matthew McConaughey to put me to sleep,
it's crazy.
it takes me at least an hour and a half to go to sleep. And I didn't have the time.
You know, I want to actually say, you guys, there's a lot of really good stuff out there now.
Yeah.
Calm is one of them. There's, I actually just go on my podcasts and I look, and there are some sleep meditations that are brilliant. They're amazing. And all you do is you just listen to this voice telling you to relax your body. And it is like they're generally about 30 minutes. And most of the time, well, some of the time I'm listening to them like for 4 hours because I'm wide awake. But like a lot of times they're very effective. So.
Brian, who wrote in before about the medication, said that focus and inability to stay on task and life skills long term is the major concern. That's why he was asking about that. And you said, thank you so much.
So we should talk about that for a minute, Brian, because when you say focus and inability to stay on task, my first instinct is to think ADHD. So I don't know your child, but I would definitely want to get them evaluated for ADHD. There are some really good medications out there now for focus and staying on task. So, you know, for instance, there is an actual, it's classified under the SSRIs, but it's for focus, which is Strattera. And it's a really good medication. You might want to talk to your doctor about those types of medications as well and see if that benefits your child more.
I have to ask you, because we started a little bit late. Can we go a few minutes longer?
Absolutely,
Are you available?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right, I want to go a little bit longer. So I'm saying hello to Helen and I think Lillian. I saw Lillian in there somewhere. Melody said, hello, good evening from Rock of Gibraltar. That sounds like
I
the
love
most...
it, yeah.
I want to go to Rock of Gibraltar. Since I discovered my son had autism recently, his sleeping pattern has changed. He goes to bed early, wakes up early, but before he was diagnosed for 7 months, he used to wake up mid-afternoon and be awake all all night awake. Also, he is very particular in texture and feeling in bed material and pillowcases. And the way it is placed, same as pajamas, does a weighted blanket help and much appreciated.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. It was in my mind to talk about weighted blankets earlier. There's a lot of cool stuff out there now. There's weighted blankets for sure help. But you have to get the right weight, because sometimes kids feel very like, if it's too heavy, they're uncomfortable with it because they feel like they can't breathe. So I would start out with a low weight, and then if you need to increase it, you can increase it. They're very, very helpful. But there's also other stuff. For instance, there are bed sheets that are actually kind of like, they're like a cocoon almost. They keep you, like the top bed sheet also goes around the bed so that it like really keeps you tight in the bed. I said cocoon, and it reminded me there's actually a sack as well that you can go inside, and it really like kind of keeps you very nicely supported on all around. And that's really good also for kids who tend to kick off all their sheets and blankets and they're living in cold spaces. So that type of stuff helps a lot, and I'm glad that you've gotten into a different schedule now, because like waking up mid-afternoon is super difficult. This is kind of the stuff that also happens when you are jet lagged, right? I mean, sometimes I think our kids are on perpetual jet lag. Yeah.
And there's so many things now. Have you seen the dog beds for humans now that it's like a furry bed?
Yes.
It's like a beanbag chair that's flat with an edge around it that I keep thinking, my gosh, I think that would have been really effective when Jem
amazing.
when he was little. But I'll tell you something that we got into, that I watched Martha Stewart religiously when I was single, and I got myself, because Martha recommended a buckwheat hull pillow. Have you ever slept with one of these? Oh, it's the best thing ever. And then I've never slept without a buckwheat hull pillow. And then I got one for Jem eventually. He loved it. He doesn't sleep with it anymore. But I can't, when I go places, it's heavy. It's a really heavy pillow. I go to a hotel, that is in my suitcase. I had it with me when I was sleeping here. And I had my weighted blanket. Thank you very much.
Pillow makes a big difference. And people have their own preferences. Like for years and years, I loved the Tempur-Pedic type pillows. And then recently, I just purchased a pillow that is kind of Tempur-Pedic, but it has a dip in the middle.
A lumbar thing,
And it's right in the middle. It's like it's incredible for me. Like now, I can't sleep without it anymore. So that kind of stuff. And also, a lot of people love these body pillows that go all the way around.
Used to be they were just long and flat, but now they make them, they look like a question mark.
Exactly.
And now they make these crazy pillows where if you have shoulder pain, you can stick your arm through it.
Yes.
I mean, there's everything under the sun, and I say try stuff. It's, can be expensive, but Joe wrote in something that I want to get to. I'm like banging my head here. They say, I had a speech teacher say ABA hinders speech development and wouldn't accept us if we started ABA. She said ABA takes speech as behavior, and this hinders speech versus the play therapy that she does. Now, I want to let you say whatever you're going to say, but can I say just briefly that there have been all these schools of thought forever. Sometimes there have been ABA people who have said, oh, if you're going to do biomedical, we won't take you. That used to be a thing. And enough parents stood up and said, how about you treat my child? How about you stop telling me everything else that you don't know about, and how about you treat my child? And I have a very allergic reaction to people who say, especially, I mean, if it's something that is not, widely accepted by the medical community, and if it doesn't, if it doesn't have a whole bunch of research behind it, then okay, we can have this conversation. But there is so much research behind ABA being effective, and ABA has turned the equation. It used to be that, and you'll know these numbers better than me, but it used to be that around 18% of the autism community had language, and the rest was nonverbal. And that number has been flipped, and not by speech therapy. Don't get me started. It's been flipped by ABA, and any speech person who would tell you that she was not going to take your child because you were doing ABA, I immediately question everything that they think, say, and do. That's me as a parent who has a child who was nonverbal and speaks up a storm, and it's because of really good informed ABA that was specific to him and that was not, nobody ever traumatized him. And I understand that there are people who were traumatized by bad ABA. But anyway, all right, now I'm going to shut up and let you speak through the expert.
I just want to say that I would also, I mean, I never say this, but I would just get away from that therapist because, if ABA hindered speech development, it wouldn't be the #1 approved therapy for kids on the spectrum that is paid for by health insurance and supported by the Surgeon General. So I would say they're just wrong. And there are a lot of people, older people who were in speech therapy are a little bit offended because ABA came and kind of took over the world of autism just because it's so much more effective. And they might feel personally angry about it, but it's not okay to say that to you. I think that kids who have ABA, I often say they should also get speech. It can help as long as there's a lot of meetings so everybody's consistent with each other. You don't want to be doing one thing in one therapy and a completely different thing in a different therapy. That will cause delays because there's confusion.
Yes. We're really out of time now, but I do want to say that Lori has said they sell weighted animal pillows as well, and Elijah loves that. He picks this out and calls it Mr. Bear. Brian says, thank you, doctor. Can we communicate via chat and email about my son, his slow processing ADHD, his smart IQ held back by his boring kindergarten, and that he thinks that he is twice exceptional. So what I want to ask you to do, Brian, is email me, Shannon at autism-live.com. And I know, Dr. Granpeesheh is so wonderful that she picks one family a month that she can have a conversation with. And so there is a waiting list. There's an extensive waiting list. But let me, let's get the process started of you being on that waiting list. And you'll do that by writing to me. The email is on the screen now, Shannon at autism-live.com. And then you have to be patient because you are busy and you are supposed to be retiring. And there's a bunch of things in here that are funny about retirement that I guess we're not going to get to on camera. I'm
happy to help if I can. Yeah, sure. And I don't usually do like back and forth emails. I'd rather spend an hour and observe your child on virtually, and also get a bunch of feedback from you, look at prior tests and stuff, and activities, and then give you kind of an assessment and some pointers. Yeah.
So please write to me, Brian, so that we get you on that list so that eventually that can happen. And I'm sorry, I don't think we got to all of the comments, but I really want to say to everybody how much we appreciate you on a daily basis being here, that your comments and questions help. We hope, and I know you guys write in and say how much it helps you to be able to talk to Dr. Granpeesheh and pick her brain about these things. And I feel bad that Pratibha never wrote back to us about that aggression, and I hope that you will, because I want to know more about that. But I want to say it means so much to both of us when you write in and ask questions, but it also means something to the people who are watching who don't feel empowered to ask the question yet. And that I know as a parent, I learned so much from the questions that other parents asked. Yeah. That I was like, that didn't even occur to me that I could have a question about that. So keep writing in those questions. We appreciate it so much. We have got a great show planned for you tomorrow, and I, of course, cannot remember, but we've got two guests, but I booked them so long ago that I can't remember. I know one of them is about an organization called Autism Wish, and about granting wishes, but I cannot remember who the other one was, but I remember saying, I want these to be the two guests right after the podcast is on. So tune in tomorrow, and we'll have Jargon of the Day tomorrow, and we look forward to being back with you guys. But thank you, and happy birthday, and then I want you to be able to open all this with Shugana. But thanks to all of you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.